This is Alex with Deep Nine Design, bringing you the front nine course preview of Res Park here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. A mile long course coming in at a par 57. This is hole one, a 243-foot straight putter shot, or you can take the outside forehand route. A lot of people choose to go that way, but it really is as easy as going straight up the center. Here I'm throwing a rubber blend zone, put it to about 10 feet, and just tapping the birdie. Here it is looking back at it from the pin. Hole 2 is a 505-foot par 4, pretty wide open. Just got to stay to the left of that bushy tree out there. Here I'm throwing a Star Destroyer, trying to get that flipped over, turning around the tree. I don't get it quite flipped over enough, and we hyzer out probably close to 400 feet down there, leaving myself about 200, 225 in, throwing that same rubber blend zone into the pin. Really a fairly straightforward par 4, just got to avoid that Mando off the tee. You can bite off as much as you want, and it just makes that approach easier the further out you get and the further right you get. Hole 3, a 304-foot par 3. I prefer the hyzer around the right side, which is what I'm going to try and do here. But you can also throw a turnover on the left side of that bushy tree out there, or a forehand hyzer out around that. Here I'm going at it with a Champ Rock 3. And I don't get quite all the way around that tree. I hyzer right in front of it, but it still leaves you a pretty good putt. Here I'm left about 40 feet. Just a poor release there. But no real danger on this hole. You did see some standing water on that green. It tends to accumulate down there when you get a heavy rain. It's rare that you see that much, but it will occasionally happen. Hole 4, another 326-foot par 3. I like the hyzer out around the outside, crashing into those trees. With the backhand, you can kind of just skip it right on up to the pin. Some players do go straight at it. That's kind of where the opening to the green is, but those trees are so close to the pin that if you're skipping something up under them, you're not really going to have any problems. Here, I do the opposite of what I did on the prior hole, and I hang it out a little bit wide, where that is problematic here, because you leave yourself somewhat of a low ceiling putt trying to get through these trees, a lot of times obstructed, and then behind the basket on the left side there is a fairly steep drop off down to a river, and wind tends to come up that hill and create a headwind from that putt I was putting it from first. This putt, it's more of a tailwind. But again, a fairly open par 3, not a whole lot to worry about. Hole 5 is a 305-foot par 3. Shapes up really nicely for a forehand or a backhand turnover. 308 foot. Here I'm throwing a Halo Wraith. Just forehand and pitching it out there. The mistake to make here is often either just going too straight out into the field, leaving yourself a little bit longer of a putt, or what I tend to do is keep it too tight and crash into the bushes and trees that you see over on the left side of the screen here. At this point in the round, it has started to rain, and by the next fairway, it will be hailing. We've got hole 6, a 525-foot par 4. You're really trying to play it up towards that tree line up there. There's two real gaps. The right gap is a little bit narrower. The left gap is a little bit wider. I tend to play it for the left gap. Here I'm going for the right gap because you can get a little bit more aggressive there. You saw in that hole map that it's about 325 to the right gap and 345 to the left gap. Both of those play a whole lot closer to 375, 380. Here I've pushed it up through that right gap. I think that's probably playing close to 400. I really fluffed the upshot with this hail coming down. Leave myself a 40-foot downhiller. This is really a tough green to come into an approach. The further out you leave yourself on the drive, the scarier this approach becomes because you can just trickle so far down this green and leave yourself a tough putt. Hole 7, a 245-foot par 3. This one is starting to get a little bit less open. We got some trees to avoid. A lot of players do that with either a backhand turnover or a forehand hyzer. Keeping it wide and just kind of trying to skip it to the pin. This is an elevated pin, so you want to be as close as you can be, and it's also sloping down and to the right from the tee. Here I just pull it out wide. I leave myself close to a 50-footer. With the green sloping away from me and an elevated basket, there's nothing you can do but lay it up here. Hole 8 is just over a 200-foot par 3, another forehand hole, sloping more down from left to right. Got somewhat of a low ceiling off the tee with the tree right in front of you, just keeping it under the branches. That used to be quite a bit lower. There it is, 231 feet, but has gotten to a reasonable height in over the past year that it's been in the ground here. I'm throwing that same rubber blend zone that I threw off the tee on hole 1, just soft little forehand hyzer, and try and get it to the ground so it slides up to this pin. It is possible to just skip right by that pin and end up with a tricky uphiller. There is a log wall kind of around the bottom end of that green that will collect a lot of discs, but still leaves you close to a circle's edge putt uphill. Not something you want to test. Hole 9. This is a tricky downhill hole. We've got a Mando on the right side. You can't see that on the hole map, but it's that red arrow on the tree just in front of the tee pad here. I'm going to try and go just to the left of that and inside that Y-shaped tree there. That is a fairly tight line off the tee, but amongst the regular players on this course, it is one of the more popular lines just because it makes it a lot easier to get to the pin. Going out around that Y tree, the angle doesn't shape up real nicely to get to the pin and can leave you with some challenging putts or approaches. Here I caught some foliage about 50 feet out from the basket and had a downhill putt at it. Got a little aggressive but caught a tree and left myself a 15-footer for the par. On this hole, par is fine. It's not a bonus birdie, but it is a tricky birdie to get. That'll conclude the front 9 of the Res Park course preview. Thank you for watching, and I'll have the back 9 posted shortly.